From Tampa Bay's #1 news station, this is the Fox 13 4 o'clock news.
All right, a little personal question for you here. How much cash do you have in your wallet right now? Well, if you're like most of us, probably not a lot. I mean, fewer people use cash these days. You swipe your card everywhere you go. But there are a lot of myths out there when it comes to carrying plastic, and that's why we've got attorney Jim Giardina back in the house with us. He's with the Consumer Rights Law Group. Did I say that right?
That's
Consumer
right.
Rights Law Group. Jim, a lot of misconceptions about credit cards. Let's go over some of the big ones here.
All right, so when it comes to credit cards, we know that that there's a credit score,
right,
and that the better you are with your credit cards, the higher your score is.
Sure.
But a lot of times, there's a sort of mystery behind that. What is the score? How high does it go? What are some of the things that make up the score? How do I do that? So
right,
what we did today was we talked about some of the myths we have with credit cards. One of the first ones is you shouldn't open up any new credit cards. And a lot of people think, we just have one credit card or you should have no credit cards. But the truth is, if you have no credit cards, there's really not a lot of ways for the credit bureau to gauge your credit and give you a score. So the first myth we have is that you should only have one credit card.
So really having multiple cards isn't a bad thing. If you're making your payments, if you're carrying a low balance, I'm assuming you're helping yourself out.
That's very true, Chris. And it doesn't really matter if you have one credit card or if you have 10 credit cards. Because one of the factors that the credit bureaus look at is the credit utilization ratio. And what they look at is, if you have, let's say, $10,000 in credit card availability, right? $10,000 available to you to use, and you're only using 1,000 of it, you're going to look more responsible than someone who has 10,000 and is using 9,000 of it and only has 1,000 left, right?
Well, what if you've used like 5,000 of your 10,000 and you ask for a credit line increase? Is that going to be a knock against you?
Actually, it's going to be the opposite, because the amount of available credit that you're not using is going to make you look more responsible. The banks, they don't want to see somebody who's maxing out their credit cards all the time. They want to see somebody who's being responsible. They want they want the kid that does his homework on time, that turns it in early, and that does the responsible and predictable thing. They don't want someone that is going to be maxing out their credit cards.
Well, I got to ask you this. I don't want to run out of time before I ask this. We get these offers in the mail, consolidate your cards or put this card, take your balance on this card and put it on this card for a lower interest rate. Can that really happen? Can they really lower your interest rate?
Oh, sure. Especially, there's a lot of cards that are 0 interest rate if you transfer your balance, because the banks, they want your business, right? They want that interest, and one of the ways they'll get it, they're going to compete against each other to get your business. And one of the ways they'll do that is to give you a 0% rate for a limited time, right? They call it a balance transfer promotional interest rate, something like that. Another one of the myths, I don't know how much time we have. Another myth we have.
About 20 seconds.
Okay. Well, you know what? We'll have to talk about them next time, I guess.
The time flies when you're talking credit. There's a lot to cover out there. If you guys have any questions, Jim Giardina with the Consumer Rights Law Group. There's a lot of information that he has and other attorneys out there have at your disposal. It's a big decision on what you do with your credit, and hopefully you make the right one. Linda?
Thank you, Chris.